Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it to. Welcome back to channel, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a cracker video. This is the Mark 14 versus the M416. It might not sound particularly logical when you hear it the first time out, but I'll break down the backstory for you, and we're going to go through it in very, very fine detail. I'm going to give you all kinds of numbers to get excited about. I'm also going to show you some gameplay of both guns and talk through the metas that involved between both of them. Now, it might sound like an odd one to do, but the hallmark of both of these guns is versatility. It's their common thread, their common factor. The M416 is renowned and the darling of the player base because it is literally the easiest gun to just pick up and use in the game. You can use it at close range, it works reasonably well at long range, it works well in mid-range. It's not the best in any of those ranges, but it also isn't very hard to get to work. And I think that's something that's really overlooked when we talk about numbers and gameplays and metas, is that sometimes just something that's not hard to use and gives you a good expected return time in, time out is valuable. And there's no way around that. I was talking to Mr. Ouija, who's just becoming a claw player like me, and he has been using thumbs for the longest time. And one of the biggest issues he's having is sniping. I find that sniping was the hardest thing to get back up to a decent standard level when I changed from thumb play to claw, because when you're sniping, you've got two fingers pressuring the device, one from either side, like the front and the back. So it allows for incredibly fine motor control. When you're playing claw, you've really only just got one finger, and that's a lot harder to use, and it takes time to set up. Well, that ease of use applies to the M416 because it doesn't matter what you do to it. The recoil is just very, very good for a gun that provides this kind of performance. Whereas when you're running a gun like the M416 versus the MK14, well, everyone knows the Mark 14, it kicks like a raging bull. It's like a visit from an IRS or a tax agent. Like, you're just not looking forward to that recoil. Once you get used to it though, and once you start working on your recoil, you're going to find that the Mark 14 is incredibly rewarding and needs to be picked up more. And the reason I'm using this footage right here is because despite the fact that I'm at a crate camping away and a bunch of people are going to turn up and look at that crate, not one of them is going to take the Mark 14 that is in the crate and use it. It's still in the crate, even now. And there's going to be another bloke turn up to jump in the crate when I go over here and start picking up the gear out of this bloke that I just killed. And this speaks to the way the player base plays the game. We look for our direction from big name YouTubers who pop out 20 kill games and 25 kill games and 30 kills and you won't believe this and no one will believe what happened next, and I was dropping Georgia Pole crates and then this happened, like this kind of crap. And those guys, they tend to run the M416, and it's a legit tactic. And then you look at scrimmages and in PMCO and stuff, and a lot of people are running, less so now, there are more people running more varied weapons. I mean, there it is. There it is. It's at least 2-3 people have come through this crate. Not one of them grabbed that thing. And they are what the player base looks at. Now, the channel that I run here is more a boutique channel. We do numbers, we do stats, we do evidence-based work for PUBG Mobile. We look at the ways you can exploit and use advantages in gameplay mechanics to actually beat people. And this is one of the biggest gameplay mechanics that just doesn't get used. Like, this gun gets left all the time. People don't pick it up out of crates because it's too difficult, in inverted commas, to deal with. I'll run a Mark 14 all day long. The only reason I've got the M416 in the other hand here is that that's the gun I had when I went to the crate. I dropped a Kar 98 for a Mark 14 you probably just saw earlier. This gun is too strong to leave alone. So versatility-wise, if you get on top of the recoil, you can learn to deal with this very, very easily. The big key to recoil control on the Mark 14 is you proactively pull this thing down. If you are used to running an M416 and you've got your sensitivity set up for an M416, it's a gentle recoil. You need to start dragging this thing down to your feet as you start firing. If you do that, the weapon damage will take care of everything else. It's It's 60 base damage. 60 base damage on an automatic weapon. Give you a little bit of an idea, the hard-hitting Graza or the AKM or 47 damage, right? 47 base damage on a 7.62 round. The M416, the Scar, all that, 40 base damage. The Mark 14 is 60. That's 33% more than an M416. It's doing 33% more damage every time it hits, and it fires ever so slightly faster, about 4/100ths of a second faster than the M416. Now, I understand if you've built your gameplay around the 5.56 AR long-range spray. That's grand. That's wonderful. But when you get to the end of a game and you come up against someone with a gun like this, like the Mark 14, who is willing to run it, then you're going to come second, because the time to kill on the M416 versus the time to kill on a Mark 14 is nuts. The Mark 14's time to kill is 0.18 of a second. I'm not making that up. If you want all the numbers, my website, thebushka.com, I'm currently updating that for the latest patches numbers because there's been a change to the base damage in SMGs and such, but that is not a made-up stat. 0.18. The time to kill on a 5.56 AR like the M416 or the Scar-L or the Orge 3, it's 0.38. 0.38 seconds to clear 100 hit points in a level 2 vest versus 0.18 of a second. It's not even close. It's double the time, more than double the time to clear a target with an M416. And I'm going to show you a little bit of gameplay in just a second, where you will see multiple situations. Now, the one thing that the M416 has that the Mark 14 doesn't, and this is apart from a much nicer recoil profile, which is a lot easier for new players to use, is that it has a mag that can extend out to 40 rounds. Now, if you are playing solos, the Mark 14 is the god gun. It is the number one gun in the game, in my opinion. But if you are playing solo versus squad, then you better be running with a 5.56 AR or any kind of gun that can auto-fire and have a big clip next to a Mark 14. Because what you're going to find, again, we're going to run someone over here at the crate. They've taken all the armor and they are not touching the Mark 14. Like, the Mark 14 is still in the crate. I don't get this. Why people will still not pick up Mark 14s, and yet they will run AKs and DP28s, and it just baffles me. Like, I'm sitting there going, again, it's just sitting there. Look at it. I don't get it. Maybe I was just too quick. Maybe I got there too quick. But you're going to see a couple of instances here where this goes down. What I think is that people are just generally lazy. A lot of people don't know the numbers on the guns. They don't look for the numbers on the guns. Like, they go to like websites like BlueStacks and Major-S, and they see PUBG Mobile PC numbers, and they take those for granted, and they don't do any fishing or work on that. I mean, the guys on Reddit and that probably know, but for the most part, these kind of weapons don't get looked at. And people pick up a Mark 14 and they're like, oh, it's too much recoil. I smash with the M416, and you do. But, like, people need to start broadening their horizons. A lot of guys will run, oh, by the way, watch this for a clutch play. I'm going to take all the wheels out in that car. And then as the circle shrinks up and that guy refuses to move, I am going to tear that car apart until he tries to leave, and I just blow the car up as he's trying to leave, and we use it like a landmine. It's bloody lovely. Here we go. This is the Mark 14. This is what it does. You ready? You ready? Here it goes. Yeah, absolutely. Just not even close. Not even freaking close. I mean, yeah, it's crazy good in the tie, and you're going to see it win the game for me in just a second. I find it almost like I'm making a public service announcement here. This is my favorite gun in the game. This is the most stupidly overpowered gun in the game. It does the most crazy numbers. Nothing is even close to it. The Graza, the Uzi, all these guns, the MP5K, they're all at best at just under 0.3 of a second time to kill, like the AKM, or 0.259 seconds to kill, like the Graza. And then the Mark 14 is at 0.18 of a second. It's not just under 0.3, it's under 0.2, and not just under 0.2, it's like 0.18. That's so crazy. It's so low. I'm going to get lit up here by a guy using an M416 who is already pre-firing before I'm out of the car. Sit down. This is why you need to understand what this gun brings to the game and how that if you can't make it work, it's a you problem that needs to be solved by you, because lots and lots of other humans make this work, and good players know that this thing will bring you home time and time again. I'm Pushka. Look after yourselves, and until next time, stay safe on the battlefield. Let's have some controversy.